Saludos mis amigos. En los dos videos anteriores a este, estuvimos viendo la politización del Departamento de Homeland Security y del Departamento de Justicia. Continuando con esta serie de la politización de las agencias federales, ahora les traigo la del FBI, que no podía faltar. En el primero de estos videos, cuando les decía que en el pasado algunas de estas agencias habían realizado un trabajo tan meritorio y tan bueno que se había creado el mito sobre algunas de ellas de que eran incorruptibles. Cuando decía eso, me refería precisamente al FBI. Pero qué decepción para quienes creyeron en ese mito, ver en lo que se ha convertido esa agencia bajo la actual y legítima administración en el poder. Da vergüenza ver cómo el director del FBI es tratado por los senadores y representantes del Congreso, quienes hasta con enojo le gritan cuando se dan cuenta que este corrupto miente descaradamente bajo juramento, tratando de evadir su responsabilidad al no responder las preguntas que le hacen. Ya en un video anterior, refiriéndonos a la censura en los medios, vimos cómo algunos senadores arremetieron contra el director del FBI por actuar contra las agencias informativas para obligarlas a censurar a los usuarios. Veamos en este video cómo el director del FBI, Christopher Wray, es cuestionado por el Senado.
Director Wray, welcome. As you know, I am deeply concerned about the conduct of both the Department of Justice and the FBI, particularly in the last 3 years during the Biden administration. I think the Department of Justice has been profoundly politicized under Attorney General Merrick Garland, and I think the FBI has as well. And unfortunately, I think you've been unwilling to stand up to senior career officials in the FBI who's allowed the FBI to be politicized. I'll tell you, I regularly speak with FBI agents across the country who are unhappy about the integrity of the institution being weakened because DOJ is being treated as a political weapon. I want to talk in particular about the investigation into multiple allegations of corruption concerning Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Because the Department of Justice has, I think, from the outset, tried at every step to stop investigation into corruption from Joe Biden. As you're aware, a WhatsApp text message was sent to Henry Zhao, a senior Chinese communist, from Hunter Biden that reads as follows. I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Now, Democrats and those in the media trying to defend the White House repeatedly say there is no direct evidence of Joe Biden's involvement in his son's corruption. Well, this is a text that is direct evidence that is stating that it is his father that is going to retaliate. Now, an IRS whistleblower, Gary Shapley, testified before the House of Representatives that the natural step he wanted to follow was to determine whether Joe Biden was in fact sitting next to his father when this threat was made to extort millions of dollars from a Chinese communist. And what the IRS whistleblower testified is that when he tried to find out whether Joe Biden was sitting next to Hunter, that the DOJ blocked getting the GPS data on Joe Biden's phone. Did the FBI try to ascertain where Hunter Biden was and where Joe Biden was when this text was sent?
Well, I think the questions you're asking go to the ongoing investigation being led by Special Counsel Weiss, and so I'm not going to be able to discuss what is or isn't in scope.
So look, there's been testimony under oath from the IRS whistleblower that you did not seek the GPS data. And you're right, David Weiss, the special prosecutor, is in charge of it. And it is David Weiss and his underlings who, according to the IRS whistleblowers, have alleged that they're the ones trying to stop the investigation. They allowed the statute of limitations to run on many of the most serious violations. Not only that, IRS whistleblower Shapley testified that on September 3rd, Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf explicitly told investigators that despite having probable cause to search, quote, there is no way a search warrant would be approved when the evidence in question was located inside of Vice President Biden's guest house. Wolf stated that, quote, the optics prevented such a search. Is the FBI, do they make a routine practice of allowing partisan political optics to prevent investigating serious evidence of corruption?
My instructions to our people on this and on every other investigation are that we are to follow the facts wherever they lead, no matter who likes it, no matter what political influence
Then why
there
did
may
you
be
get
out
the
there.
GPS data on where Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were?
Again, Senator, with respect, I can't discuss
But it's
an
not
ongoing
with respect.
investigation.
And Director Wray, you and I have gone round and round on this because I understand anytime you're asked about this, the answer is it's an ongoing investigation. Of course, the investigation isn't ongoing. You're not doing the work. You got whistleblowers pointing out that you're not doing the work, and you are hiding behind the skirts of the Attorney General. Look, the whistleblower also testified that the Attorney General, when he came before Congress, go to the next chart, came before Congress, lied under oath to this committee. The Attorney General testified to this committee in response to my questioning. I have pledged not to interfere with the Hunter Biden investigation, and I have carried through on that pledge. The IRS whistleblowers have alleged the Attorney General lied under oath, a felony. Was the Attorney General telling the truth when he said this? Do we have the chart? We don't have the chart. Was the Attorney General telling the truth when he said, I have pledged not to interfere with the Hunter Biden investigation, and I have carried through on my pledge?
Again, I can't speak to the Attorney General's testimony. I can only tell you what my instructions have been to our people, and I
Has
expect
there
those
been
to be
political
followed.
interference in the investigation into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden?
Not that I have experienced.
Were the investigators allowed to investigate whether Joe Biden was complicit in the corruption?
Again, there is an ongoing investigation.
I'm asking you about
being led.
corruption from DOJ. Were they allowed to investigate Joe Biden, or is the whistleblower telling the truth that DOJ said Joe Biden's off limits, no questions about the big guy?
And as to what is in scope or not in scope of the ongoing investigation, I would refer you to Special Counsel Weiss. That is not me hiding behind anything, Senator. That is a longstanding policy that has been in place
Director
through
Wray,
multiple administrations,
you have a
going back years and years and
have a
years.
responsibility to the FBI, not to allow it to be a partisan tool and a partisan weapon. The testimony, and by the way, the FBI has done nothing.
And I have not, and I will not.
Have you opened an investigation into whether the Attorney General lied under oath to Congress and whether the Attorney General obstructed justice?
I'm not going to go down that road here.
I know you're not. That's the point. Nobody thinks you've opened an investigation because you're not willing to. And the amazing thing is, Director Wray, I've known you 30 years. You're not a partisan Democrat. You're simply sitting blithely by while career partisans in your agency allow it to be weaponized. And you are damaging the FBI, and you are damaging the Department of Justice. Let me ask you also, the whistleblower testified that investigators wanted to execute a search warrant on a storage unit used by Hunter Biden, and instead they tipped off Hunter Biden's lawyer before the search warrant was carried out. Is it typical FBI practice to tip off the subject of a search warrant before the search warrant so they can remove any evidence that's incriminating?
What is typical is that when you're dealing with an individual who has a protective detail, it is typical for agents to be in contact with the subject's protective detail.
Does the protective detail guard the storage unit?
Again, I can't speak to the storage unit specifically, but I can tell you is that when it comes to...
Why would the FBI tip off the subject of a search warrant about the storage unit that was going to be searched beforehand? Does that not undermine the very essence of an investigation that DOJ is purporting to undertake?
Again, I'm not going to be able to discuss specific investigative steps
But
that
who
we're
is?
taking.
If you're not, nobody answers these questions, and it's why people are furious with the cover-up, because you don't believe the FBI is accountable to Congress or to the American people.
Como pudieron ver en este video, el senador Ted Cruz comienza diciéndole al director del FBI que se siente muy preocupado por la conducta del DOJ y el FBI en los últimos 3 años bajo la administración de Biden, al ver que estas instituciones han sido profundamente politizadas. Y cita el escándalo de corrupción de Hunter Biden y de Joe Biden, donde, desde el principio, el FBI ha tratado de parar las investigaciones. El senador saca un mensaje de texto de un funcionario de alto rango del Partido Comunista Chino con Hunter Biden, donde queda demostrado que Joe Biden estaba involucrado en los sucios negocios de su hijo. Los demos siempre han negado que Biden haya estado involucrado en los negocios de su hijo, alegando que no existen evidencias directas. Y Ted Cruz le restriega esto en la cara, diciéndole, aquí tienen evidencias directas. En este punto, Ted Cruz le pregunta a Christopher Wray por qué el FBI bloqueó el GPS del teléfono de Biden. Y como siempre, el director del FBI se niega a responder la pregunta, diciendo que no podía hablar del caso porque había una investigación en curso. Lógicamente se cae de la mata que el FBI bloqueó el teléfono de Biden para que no se supiera que Joe Biden estaba al lado de su hijo en el momento del mensaje. Aunque esto está en el mensaje. La discusión continuó subiendo de tono y llegó un momento en que el senador malhumorado le grita a Wray que no siga con que existe ninguna investigación en curso, porque eso es mentira, ya que simplemente el FBI no está haciendo su trabajo. Y continúa el senador haciéndole preguntas al director Wray de casos en los que el FBI ha interferido para frenar las investigaciones contra la familia Biden, dejando al descubierto la corrupción de esta agencia federal. Veamos este otro fragmento del video en que el senador Ted Cruz interroga a un diputado del FBI, al director Paul Abate, donde se revela la evidencia de que el FBI está totalmente involucrado en la corrupción de esta administración y de la familia Biden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, every day when I'm home in Texas, I hear from Texans who are deeply dismayed about the growing politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI. If you are not, every one of you should be deeply concerned about the damage being done to the integrity of the institutions in which you operate. My office hears regularly from FBI agents and from assistant U.S. attorneys who are likewise concerned about the politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and this is profoundly damaging to the rule of law in our nation. Last month, a whistleblower brought to light the existence in the FBI of a report, an FD 1023, in which the informant alleges that President Biden and his family members engaged in a $5 million bribery scheme during his time as vice president. Deputy Director Abate, is it true that the FBI has a report making those allegations?
I'm not going to comment on that, Senator.
And why is that?
I'm just not going to comment on information we received, investigations, or
Do you owe
ongoing
an
matters.
obligation to the American people to be candid about evidence of corruption by the President of the United States?
This is an area that I'm not going to get into with you, Senator.
Well, I understand you don't want to, and that's why people are mad at the FBI, because you're stonewalling and covering up serious allegations of evidence of corruption from the president. Yesterday, Senator Chuck Grassley stood on the Senate floor and alleged that there are 17 recordings of this informant from Burisma, Ukrainian natural gas company. 15 of them are recordings, voice recordings of him talking to Hunter Biden. 2 of them are voice recordings of him talking to Joe Biden. Deputy Director Abate, does the FBI have 17 voice recordings laying out evidence of a bribery scheme?
Senator, I would add also that we've worked with the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah, this is the Senate. We're the other side of the Capitol. This is the Senate. Do you have those 17 recordings?
I'm not going to comment on any investigative matters, Senator.
See, that's the problem. The FBI, and I've had this conversation with Chris Wray too, this is why you are damaging the institution. The American people have a right to know whether there is serious, credible evidence that the President of the United States took a $5 million bribe. And by the way, if it's false, Chairman Durbin just rolled his eyes. If Chairman Durbin were interested in the rule of law, we would have a hearing on these allegations. But of course, the Democrats don't want a hearing on these allegations. And to be clear, if the allegations are false, you know who could disprove them? Joe Biden. He could call for this to be released publicly. But the FBI is stonewalling. Would you agree?
Two things, Senator. No one's stonewalling. The 1023
You just said you refused to answer the question.
In response to a subpoena.
Okay, then why did you refuse to answer my question?
The pertinent information is there, and I reject your assertion that the FBI is politicized.
Why did you refuse to answer my question?
I just answered your question.
Okay, so yes, you have a 1023. Do you have the 17 recordings, yes or no?
I'm not going to get further into that.
So you're stonewalling. You can't say I'm not refusing to answer your question, but I won't answer your question.
I'm going to answer within the parameters that we operate in. Here.
That's the problem. The FBI has right now an unlimited hubris that you believe you are unaccountable. You don't believe you're accountable to the United States Congress, and you don't believe you're accountable to the American people. And you are doing damage. The FBI is a great institution. When I go home to Texas, people ask me, should we abolish the FBI? Now, I tell them no, because you have heroes and patriots working for you that are catching child predators, that are catching terrorists. But you're sitting there happily erecting a wall to protect Joe Biden. Will you provide to this committee, not the House, the Senate Judiciary Committee, will you provide the FD 1023 and will you provide the 17 recordings so we can assess what is the evidence, the specific credible evidence that Joe Biden personally took a $5 million bribe from a foreign national?
Senator, we will work with this committee, you and other members, to provide the information within the parameters of the process.
Will you provide the FD 1023, yes or no?
I will take that back, and we will work with our team.
So you're not answering that. Will you provide the 17 recordings?
We will take that back, and we'll work with you.
So you're not answering that either. Did you investigate in any way, shape, or form these allegations?
Senator, once again, I'm not going to comment.
So you're not going to say whether you did your job?
We do our job to the very best of our ability.
Well, not here. You're not answering a single question to the American people. And you may think this is esoteric. I promise you, millions of Americans are concerned. You know who isn't concerned? Not a single Senate Democrat. We're going to go through this whole hearing. Not one Democrat will ask a question about this. You know who else isn't concerned? The corporate media, who is joining with the Democrats in covering up this evidence. If Joe Biden is innocent, the evidence should be made public and demonstrate that he's innocent. But if he is not, is it true this informant who alleged that he personally took a bribe was an informant the FBI had relied upon previously in other investigations? Yes or no?
Senator, in each and every investigation that we have, all the work that we do,
I asked you
the
yes or no
expectation
question.
is that every logical avenue of investigation be pursued.
I asked you a yes or no
fullest.
question. Are you going to answer it?
Yeah, I'm answering your question.
Was the informant one you had relied on previously in other investigations? Yes or no?
Senator, we run down every piece of information. Every
You're not
lead,
answering it then. You're refusing to answer it. So you're refusing to answer the
to
question.
the fullest extent possible.
You're refusing to answer the question.
relentlessly,
Is that
and
correct?
aggressively in all instances.
Senator, your
It's
time is
disgraceful. It's disgraceful, Deputy Director Abate. Disgraceful.
Como acaban de ver en este fragmento, el senador Ted Cruz comienza explicando la profunda preocupación del Congreso, de muchos fiscales y del pueblo por la politización del FBI y cómo esto puede causar un gran daño al Estado de Derecho. En ese momento del interrogatorio, el senador se refiere al caso de que Biden y su familia estaban involucrados en un caso de soborno de $5 millones durante su mandato como vicepresidente. Y como siempre pasa, el director Paul Abate se niega a responder las preguntas diciendo que no quería responder eso, después que no podía hablar de ese tipo de investigaciones, lo que demuestra que no se le permite hablar de lo que incrimine a la familia Biden y a su administración, convirtiéndose esta conducta en una prueba directa de que el FBI está involucrado en la corrupción de esta administración. Como pudieron ver en la continuación del interrogatorio, el senador le siguió preguntando por diferentes grabaciones de audio que corroboran la veracidad de la existencia de soborno. Pero el diputado del FBI se negó a contestar a todas las preguntas formuladas por el senador Ted Cruz. La gente ve que se discuten muchas quejas que llegan al Congreso como violaciones de la Constitución, abusos de poder y la corrupción de esta administración. Vemos que se producen largas discusiones allí entre demócratas y republicanos. Y aunque se presenten evidencias irrefutables, nunca pasa nada. Entonces la gente comienza a pensar que esas cosas no están ocurriendo en realidad. Y más si tienen el apoyo de los grandes medios, diciendo que esas acusaciones a la administración en el poder son teorías de la conspiración. Entonces todo se va convirtiendo en una especie de gaslighting para manipular la opinión pública y hacer que la gente dude de lo que está viendo con sus propios ojos. Sí, mis amigos, porque hay quienes creen más en lo que le dicen que en lo que ven delante de su cara. ¿Y por qué no pasa nada? Porque la justicia en este país está secuestrada por una administración corrupta en el poder que ha corrompido a las principales agencias federales encargadas de hacer justicia con parcialidad. Hoy se está viendo y se ha estado discutiendo en el Congreso el doble estándar o el doble rasero en la justicia de este país. Estamos viendo que el partido político en el poder ha dado un giro total hacia la izquierda, implementando políticas dictatoriales que son las que verdaderamente conducen a la destrucción de la república y la democracia. Democracia que ellos aparentan defender, pero sabemos que es mentira. De verdad les digo, que Dios libere a este país de caer en las manos de la candidatura presentada por el Partido Demócrata para la presidencia en las próximas elecciones. Porque lo que proponen en su agenda no es nada bueno. Lo dejamos por aquí. Que Dios les bendiga y hasta la próxima.